Hello all, my name is Charlie Manning. I interned with the Foundation this summer and am continuing to work with them this year. Thus far, I've been working primarily on open science, and today I'm going to be talking about the Focused Ultrasound Foundation's updated open science policies and recommendations for funded research. These policies and recommendations are the product of the Foundation's new initiative to promote open science values and practices in our research community. The impetus of this initiative is, broadly, that comprehensive and reliable research is vital to our mission, and we believe such research cannot be produced without scientific practices that cleave to the core scholarly norms of transparency and reproducibility. One of the major ways we feel we can foster these values and enforce these practices is through the policies surrounding our research funding. The Foundation expects all of the research and funds to be held to a high standard of accountability and reproducibility and made maximally available to the public. I'm going to start by going over what we currently require and how that underpins our policy, and then move into a discussion of the practices that we are currently encouraging with an eye to mandating in the future. Our three major requirements that currently exist in our research funding agreements are that awardees publish open access, they put their final reports in our preprint server, and this is not strictly speaking a requirement. We reserve the right to ask them to deposit their data in a public repository. First two of these requirements relate primarily to open publication. The first, requiring that awardees publish their research in an open access journal, is simple and means exactly what it says. We want the final research product to be publicly available. The second, that we, the Foundation, require a copy of their final report to be published in our preprint server, ensures that study data is available as quickly as possible following the conclusion of original research. Our preprint server, Focus Archive, is hosted by the Center for Open Science and is indexed by them to major repositories such as bioRxiv, so that the final reports of funded research are as widely available as possible and more easily discoverable. These policies are as adamant as they are because we believe that open access to research is a cornerstone of good scientific practice. Accordingly, we ensure that all awardees are able to publish openly by covering the entirety of a direct additional costs associated with selecting a journal's open access publication option. Such options being relatively ubiquitous now, we absolutely expect that all research we fund is available to the public. The third current mandate is that the Foundation reserves the right to ask awardees to deposit their study data in public repositories, or allow the Foundation to do so itself. This policy reflects our belief that study data must be openly shared in the research community to maximize the available resources of all researchers working to further focused ultrasound technology and treatment. Implementation-wise, we will discuss whether this requirement applies to a given project with the researcher during the contracting process. Currently, we see this requirement most commonly in brain and oncology studies. As to what such a repository should look like, Foundation has two major criterion for repositories that prefers awardees deposit data in. First is gated access. The repository should have a governance structure for granting access to data wherein all requests for data are reviewed by a committee for relevance and legitimacy before being granted. Second feature is a robust archiving strategy that ensures long-term preservation and access to study data. Key aspect of this is usually stable, persistent identifiers such as DOIs for all data sets. So those are the aspects of open science policy that are currently mandated, but there are also a number of practices that we strongly encourage our awardees to observe and may mandate in future. We'll start with data citation, something we expect most researchers are already doing consistently and thoroughly. It is an expectation of the Foundation that all data sets and program code generated through our funding are completely and accurately cited in the text and listed in an article's reference section. Furthermore, references for data sets and code should include a persistent identifier such as a DOI. Citing data is one of the most basic aspects of open science, and one we absolutely expect our affiliated researchers to be observing. Another major aspect of open science that the Foundation encourages its awardees to practice is transparency with data code and materials. Broadly speaking, the policy of the Foundation is to fund proposals in which the data code and materials used to conduct research are clearly and precisely documented and made maximally available to any researcher for purposes of reproducing the results or replicating the procedure. In some cases, the Foundation will exercise its contractual right to require that awardees deposit their research data in public repositories. Those cases withstanding, the Foundation strongly encourages researchers to make their data code and materials publicly available, either by way of public repository or by direct inclusion in published research. Same applies for design transparency or research reporting. Awardees are expected to make the details of their study design maximally available to the public and other researchers by reporting their research methodology using the relevant standardized format from the Equator Network. While not strictly mandated at current, transparency in both of these categories is an expectation of good science and a major concern of the Foundations. We want the research we fund to be reproducible, and we will increasingly take steps to ensure this is the case. Moving from reproducibility to accountability, the Foundation strongly encourages all awardees to pre-register their study plans and analysis in an independent institutional registry, such as the Open Science Framework or as predicted. Pre-registration is an excellent way to promote scientific accountability, severely limiting the viability of questionable research practices such as p-hacking and outcome switching. As such, we hope to see it become a norm in the focused ultrasound research ecosystem. This practice reflects and encourages basic research integrity, something I think we can all agree is desirable in our science. First step towards making this practice a norm is requiring all authors to indicate in their proposed research whether or not they will pre-register. The Foundation currently strongly encourages that potential awardees do so with an eye to mandating in the future. Another open science practice the Foundation supports is conducting replication studies. Such accountability measures are vital to the scientific process, but are currently disincentivized by the publication system, in which only novel results are consistently published. This leaves the important work of reproducing and verifying scientific discoveries undervalued and largely underperformed. The Foundation is thus encouraging submissions for replication studies through our general funding mechanism, and we hope to effect a change in the culture surrounding publication through our outreach to journals. I'm going to take the last minute of this talk to discuss registered reports, a research method that both addresses the publication bias just discussed and features built-in pre-registration. Many of you may have already heard of registered reports. They're a relatively new method of reporting research that we at the Foundation strongly advocate for. We believe that adoption of this format would represent a major shift forward in the culture and practices of our research community. The essence of registered report research is that it is scrutinized before data is ever collected. A researcher submits a detailed proposal outlining what they want to investigate and how they plan to do so, and this proposal is peer-reviewed and either accepted or rejected for publication on the merit of its methodology and research question alone. This format is designed to reward best practices in adhering to the hypothetico-deductive model, and like pre-registration, eliminates p-hacking and selective outcomes, while also addressing major issues in publication bias by removing the onus to produce significant novel results only. In terms of our policy here at the Foundation, we strongly encourage submissions of proposals to conduct research in the registered report format, and such proposals will receive favor in the selection process. That concludes this discussion of the Foundation's open science policy and recommendations. Thank you for your attention.